Hello and welcome back to the Faith and Culture Show. I'm Catherine Camp, your hostess for the show. This is where we dig deeply into what is going on in our culture. We do this to educate ourselves so that we can continue having conversations with everyone around us, conversations that count, conversations with an eternal perspective. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of the Second Amendment, along with being ready. We just have to be ready. You know, Jesus said he's coming back, and so did the angels tell us that he was coming back the way he left. Are you ready? We have to be able to protect the dignity of humanity as well. And that's why today I feel very privileged to have Stephen Willeford on today. He's also known as the Barefoot Defender. He is a courageous American hero who rose to national prominence for his quick thinking and selfless actions during a tragic mass shooting incident in 2017. A native of Sutherland Springs, Texas, Willeford is a devoted family man, an ardent supporter of the Second Amendment, and a skilled marksman. We need many of those. Despite the accolades and attention, Willeford remains humble and grounded, attributing his actions to his faith and an unwavering sense of duty to his fellow citizens. The Barefoot Defender will forever be remembered as a hero who risked his life to protect his community and as a powerful example of the potential for ordinary citizens to do extraordinary things. I believe he's extraordinary because he stepped up. You don't have to be enlisted in the military. You can be retired. You can be a vet. You just kind of decided you didn't want to be in the military anymore for whatever reasons. I've heard some interesting reasons. But to step up, to help others and risk your own life, I can tell you that's an extraordinary human. So I want to remind people, a lot of Christians get a little funny about the Second Amendment. Let me remind you, Jesus told us to protect ourselves. He didn't leave us here as sheep, without a shepherd. We have a shepherd. And he told his disciples to take up their swords, not to start fighting, but to be able to protect themselves. So let's bring Stephen on. There we go. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your show. Yes, Jesus did say, he asked his disciples, do you have a sword? And then he said, if you do not have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. And just to make sure that everybody's clear about it, a sword is not something that you use to cut up your fruit in the garden. A sword is a defensive weapon. Some people might say it's offensive weapon or whatever, but it's not something you just cut up your fruit with or slice a steak with. A sword is a weapon that you can use to defend your life, defend others.
Yeah, and that's what makes our country so interesting. And I think we would have been taken over a long time ago if we did not have the Second Amendment to protect ourselves. I think of the country of Australia. Yeah. I think of them. No one's allowed to have a gun over there. So they are at the mercy of their government. And I don't know if you saw some scenes during the pandemic and the horrible exercise going on all around the world to lock people up. And when they got tired of it, people went out in the streets and they just beat people with clubs, even pregnant women on the ground, kicking them and stuff. That is just beyond to me. I just can't accept that as behavior of a decent human being. So thank goodness we have our Second Amendment.
In Australia, it's even gotten so much that you can't try to convert anybody to Christianity. It is against the law now.
Is it now?
It is. And how ridiculous and how sad is that? to be able to do the things that you need to do for God, you know? And what happens when all that happens? It doesn't stop happening. That people try to convert people to Christianity. It just has to go undercover. That no one
Wow.
needs to know. There's more Christians in China than there are in the United States itself.
Right.
It's just they are undercover.
Yeah. Well, they become a devout Christian at that point because they see that Jesus is the only way. And so they know better, but unfortunately in America, we have had it too good for too long. There hasn't been anything to really push us to understanding the danger we're in. And a lot of that, I know this isn't part of our conversation, but a lot of that, it is the media. They are our biggest enemy. They are a threat to our national security because of the way they distort truth and turn everything around. But it's a very good lesson in projection and gaslighting, I can tell you that.
It's all becoming out. It's all being drug out into the light, isn't it?
I hope so, because there are still some people that just refuse. And we're not going to talk about where I live, but we talked about it earlier. These people, I just don't get it. They are so fast asleep and brainwashed. I think that they are part of the 25 to 30% that Matthias Desmet says they will never wake up because they have just believed fully. They are so vested in the propaganda narrative that they can't see it any other way. It's just like this cognitive dissonance. They can't understand what's really going on. So I know where you are. It's a little bit different, a little bit freer. and I'm glad to have you here. So tell us, why do people call you the Barefoot Defender?
So on November 5th, 2017, a madman, and I believe he was demon possessed, came in and started shooting through the walls and windows of a 100-year-old church, murdering people. And he went all the way around three sides of the church, shooting through the windows. And then he entered into the church and started going from pew to pew, murdering people. My daughter made me aware of what was going on. I grabbed a rifle out of one of these safes. I ran across the street with no shoes on. People say, really, you didn't take time to put shoes on? I tell them, you're lucky I had pants on. They call me the Barefoot Defender. The pantsless defender might be a little creepy.
Yeah.
But and people say, really, the Barefoot Defender. And what I tell them is, in the Bible, when the Israelites had to leave and flee Egypt, when the Pharaoh finally turned them loose and said, get out of Egypt, they didn't have time to let their bread rise. And now, even today, they have the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. And it denotes how urgent it was to get out of Egypt. And in the same way, they call me the Barefoot Defender because when it happens, you need to know how urgent it is to get into the fight. And I didn't have time to put shoes on. I kept hearing shots. And I knew each one of those shots was meant for somebody I cared for. And so I ran across the street with no shoes on. I confronted a shooter. He had on Class 3 body armor and a ballistic bulletproof helmet. And as I ran out, he started shooting at me. I ran behind a truck, and I came up over the hood of the pickup truck. He hit the truck in front of me. He shattered the windshield of the car behind me. He hit the house behind me. I was able to put 6 rounds out of 6 on him. And in the end, I won and he lost. And I truly believe that God called me at that moment. And God put me into flight to go over there. And I think God saved me, protected me, and steadied my hand so that I can make 6 out of 6 good shots. And Most of them were stopped by the body armor, but in the end, I hit him high in the side. I hit him in the legs. I broke one across his forehead. He got in his vehicle and fled. I flagged down a young man. We chased him for over 11.6 miles, and in the end, he committed suicide. He turned the pistol on himself and shot himself in the head. And I'm okay with that.
Wow. So even that you shot him in the leg and grazed his forehead, is that right?
I grazed his forehead and I put one between the plates. So Class 3A body armor has a front plate and it has a rear plate that are bulletproof. And I hit him in the left chest and I hit him in the abdomen. Both of those were stopped by the plates. And then he ran for his vehicle, which was parked in the middle of the street with the driver's side door open and the engine running. He got in his vehicle. He put two more shots through the side window at me, and I busted one across his forehead right underneath the rim of the helmet. And he accelerated, turned the corner, and I ran over and flagged down a truck that was stopped at a stop sign. And we chased him down the road. And he ended up shooting himself and finishing himself off. I truly believe the one in his side, I think he was coughing up his own blood. But, you know, I think God steadied my hand. I heard God speaking to me while it was all happening.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that God was in charge and had called me into his service at that moment. And if you hear God's voice so clear in your life and it doesn't change your life, there's something wrong with you.
Mm. Yeah, there are people who, first, we have a whole variety, right? Some people hear God, but they're not sure. They think it's their own voice. Then we have people who are really listening clearly. And then there are those who ignore it. I don't know. Well, that's not true. I was going to say I don't know many of those, but that's not true.
I once told the pastor that was asking me questions and talking to me about it. I told the pastor, I think I heard God's voice clearer than I had ever heard him speak to me before in my life. And I said, honestly, I wish that God would speak to me that clearly, other than just times when I'm at my most stress.
Mm.
Pastor looked at me, he said, you know, you may listen more when you're at your most stress.
Interesting.
And that may be so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's always there to help us. And so what were you doing, by the way, when you heard these shots? Do you live next to this church?
I lived across the street and one street over and one house over.
Okay.
So I lived close enough that you could, I was about 100 yards from the church. And that morning I would normally be at the church that I went to, except I was going to start an on-call for the hospital that I work for as a maintenance plumber. And what on-call means is you carry a pager. Most millennials don't even know what a pager is, but a pager can get you where your phone can't. That means on-call means you'd have to carry that pager for the next full week. And they would call you in 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and you'd go fix plumbing emergencies and stuff. So I had stayed home from church that day myself, and I don't believe in coincidences. And so I stayed home so that I could get some rest because I was going to do anywhere 20 to 30 extra hours that week on call. And that's the only reason I was home. And,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be on call, we had 8 plumbers, and we would rotate through the 8 of us. So it's only 1 out of every 8 weeks that I was going to be on. So really, like I say, the timing was just, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe it was meant to be. I don't believe in coincidence in my training, because I was part of a church pistol competition team, and we called ourselves the Sinners. And we used to compete, and there was 5 men, and we were the Sinners, and we would compete together, and we were smoking good. And one of our Sinners was a former Army Ranger and a San Antonio police officer.
Okay.
And so in between competition, he would train with me to teach me what he already knew. And for 3 weeks straight, he taught me how to shoot around body armor.
Oh.
Not knowing this was ever going to happen.
Yeah, wow.
But nothing takes God by surprise.
No.
What I truly believe is that God doesn't live on a timetable like we do. Living in eternity with God means that we will live outside that timetable with God, where we can see the past, the present, and the future all in one shot. And God knew that I would need that training, just like he knew that David would need to know how to use his slingshot.
True.
What did David tell Saul? He said, God has delivered me from the paw of a lion and a bear. I'll bring you this Philistine's head. Because David was already trained, he knew how to use his slingshot, and he didn't want Saul's armor. Saul offered his armor, and David said, I am untested with it. David knew if he was close enough to Goliath to need that armor, he had already lost. He knew that God had trained him with a slingshot.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew he was never going to get close enough to Goliath. He said, from the power of the God Most High, I'll bring you this Philistine's head.
And he did.
And I truly believe that God trained me for that moment also.
What made you want to train? Were you training for security at your church, or were you all just interested in learning how to be marksmen?
It was my passion. I taught a youth shooting team, which, by the way, one of my youth shooters went on, and she was shooting for West Point on their shooting team, and she set women's collegiate national record with a pistol. She was one of my students.
Wow.
I trained, I shot. It's like golfing, but for men. We enjoyed the shooting sports, and I became a coach. I became an instructor. And I brought up a youth shooting team, and we just shot for fun. It was something that we did together, and it was a church group that got together, and we competed together, and we won several trophies.
Well, that's always fun to win.
Yeah.
So with this church, I'm sure that after this whole incident, you got to know some of the people at the church. You didn't go to that church. Did they have a security team?
I didn't go to that church. However, for 8 years before this happened, I delivered toys around Christmas time with that very church. The reason I have the beard today is because I'm growing it out, because I will dress like Santa Claus and ride my motorcycle, and I will go around Wilson County and deliver toys in Wilson County with that church, even today. And before that happened, I was doing that. My kids, even though we didn't go to that church, they went to Awanas at that church. I knew almost everyone at that church. Sutherland Springs, Texas is under 600 total population. That's my community. I knew them all. I love my community. I never want to live anywhere else other than Sutherland Springs. And so, yeah, okay. No, it hasn't been since then that I got to know people at that church. It was before
Okay.
the people at that church.
So it was personal because it was your town. This is what's going on.
Yes, fourth generation in Sutherland Springs. My great-grandfather bought the property that I live on today in 1927. I'm fourth generation here, and I never want to go. And all three of my children and their spouses built homes on my property, and now all 9 of my grandchildren, the oldest is 7, are growing up on my property that I'm fourth generation. So that's fifth generation and sixth generation on the same property.
Special. Not many people get to live that out. So tell us what you do now. After this incident, it wasn't that long ago. It was less than 10 years. What have you taken this to another level?
Well, I work for God in America, and we fight in every state. We fight for your rights. We fight on the national level. Our home office for GOA is in Springfield, Virginia. They need to be close to the Capitol so that we can do our lobbying at the Capitol. We most recently lobbied to get the tax taken away for suppressors, short barrel rifles, and shotguns. And now we have we have the big, beautiful lawsuit because that got done at the big, beautiful bill. But they pulled off taking suppressors and short barrel rifles off of the NFA with the big, beautiful bill, but they took the tax away. So no longer do you have to pay a $200 tax, but it's still on the NFA. It's still a registry. And so now we have filed the lawsuit to take suppressors, short barrel rifles, and shotguns completely off the NFA. And we're fighting for that. We were able to fight and help with the lawsuit to get the bump stock ban overturned. We're the ones that got the pistol brace ban overturned. We're fighting every day, every way, as much as we can.
You mentioned something. What are the acronyms that you're talking about? Because this is taking it to another level. I mean, actually getting involved to make legal changes in this arena.
Absolutely. So the NFA, I mentioned to get the NFA, to pull them off the NFA. The National Firearms Act. What the National Firearms Act, it was enacted in 1934, and I'm gonna ask you a few questions, see how much you know about it. So the National Firearms Act was enacted in 1934. We believe that it is an infringement on the Second Amendment. What the National Firearms Act is it did not, because they recognized that with the Second Amendment and shall not be infringed means that you cannot make a law banning these items. And they recognized that in 1934. So what they did is they made a law that would, you had to pay a $200 tax on all these items. And in 1934, that $200 tax was worth about $4,700 is what they say. So each short barrel rifle, each suppressor, each semi or full automatic gun, they did not ban them. They just taxed them. And in 1936, they were appealing it and trying to fight it. In 1936, the Supreme Court said you cannot do a regulation. However, you can tax. So in 1936, they affirmed that it is illegal to ban these items, but you can tax them. I would argue that no, our Second Amendment is a part of the Bill of Rights, and the Bill of Rights is your God-given rights. And you cannot tax a God-given right. And proof we have of that is the poll tax. Poll tax is unconstitutional because you have the right to vote. And you can't put a tax on a right. But in 1934, what happened was Al Capone, and you may have heard of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Have you? So what happened, it was gang wars with Al Capone. And no matter what you think of Al Capone, he was an evil man. He was. In some ways, the government created Al Capone because of prohibition. So Al Capone was making money selling illegal alcohol, which later was overturned. Prohibition was overturned, and they can't control that. But lay that aside. So they were trying to get Al Capone, and they were trying to get him off the streets after the St. Valentine's Massacre, which they lined up their enemy gang members against a wall, and they shot them to death with Thompson machine guns. And so the government said, we have to stop this. And again, I'm not making excuses for Al Capone. However, you do not saddle the whole nation with an unconstitutional act just to catch one man. They couldn't find evidence on Al Capone at all. They couldn't find evidence because he was too good at hiding it. So what do you know about how they caught Al Capone?
I don't. I've only heard his name. I know he was a bad person.
They got Al Capone on tax evasion.
Oh, they get you on something.
You know what tax he evaded? The newly formed NFA. They caught him for having rifles, shotguns, short-barreled rifles, shotguns, full automatic, and suppressed. And for each one of them he had, they charged him $200, which was the price of a brand new Tommy gun at the time. So they charged him with tax evasion because he didn't fill out the right forms and register all his short-barreled rifles, shotguns, and pistols and stuff, and suppressors. And so they caught him on the NFA Act. They created the NFA Act just to get one man off the streets.
Wow.
And it saddled the rest of the nation with an unconstitutional tax. And so now, 100 years later, we are still fighting that infringement.
Yeah, once they get something on the books, it's really hard to get off.
And so that's what GOA is doing.
Okay.
We are fighting from state to state. And we are fighting to keep these laws from going into action to begin with. And if a state needs me to go speak on state capitol or something, they will send me there because my story matters. If they want to ban AR-15s, I used an AR-15 to save my community. And my story matters. You know, criminals don't care about laws.
No.
If you
they're
ban,
going to get guns no matter what.
If you ban AR-15s, they're still going to have them. They're not going to put in their guns.
Yeah.
And if you want proof of that, go look at France, where so many times they have already attacked France with full automatic AK-47s. In the rock and roll concert, and you know, when they went in and they shot the cartoonist, when they went on a French train and shot up people in a French train, which, by the way, it was 2 unarmed American soldiers that stopped that shooter on a French train.
Wow.
America has a different attitude. America is an exceptional place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, out of all the French people on that French train, when somebody came in and started shooting at people with a full automatic AK-47, which is against the law for them to own, 2 unarmed American soldiers took him out. God bless America.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. I think that we're beginning to see such a divide over the last, I think it's been this way for a long time, but it's becoming in the forefront over the past, I would say 20 years, where you have to decide what side you're on. Are you on the dark side or are you on the side of light? And unfortunately, some Christians haven't gotten that memo and they want to play footsie with the dark side.
Well,
And
I have Christian friends that vote on the left, and I just don't understand how they think that we are the ones that are evil.
Yeah.
Well, we're not trying to surgically change little boys and make them what they aren't, or we're not the ones that agree with abortion.
Right.
That absolutely destroys God's blessings in this nation.
Yeah.
We're the ones that believe in protecting ourselves and those around us. Please go to gunowners.org and sign up and be part of the solution. It only costs $25 for an annual membership.
And I would say that's worth it. You all have different shows. Now, I read on your website that you have lessons for people and churches if they would like to learn how to have a security team.
I'm going to be in Dallas on the 6th of December at a Protecting the Flock thing that they're doing.
Oh, and cool.
We're going to be training any churches any members that want to come to that event. I'm going to be there in Dallas, and I'm going to be signing people up for GOA and selling my book. My book is A Town Called Sutherland Springs. You can find that at Amazon, or you can come to the event in Dallas, and you can purchase my book, and I'll sign it.
A bonus. Oh, okay. Well, can people buy that anywhere else? I mean, getting it directly from the author is always the best, but
it's on Amazon, or you can find it at gunowners.org.
Okay.
Or you can go to my website, thebarefootdefender.com, and there'll be a link that'll essentially take you to Amazon to buy it.
Okay. This is good. Well, Stephen, thank you so much. I mean, this has really been an education that we have laws on the books that have been there over 100 years that are first unconstitutional, and that you all are working very hard to get off the books. It's been a battle. It's been a battle, and the battle seems to get, it just never stops. And I think it gets trickier and trickier. So thank you for what you all are doing at Gun Owners of America. I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on the show and spending some time here.
Thank you for having me on.
God bless you. And I hope that my church is doing something similar. In fact, I think I'll ask, and I would suggest to anyone out there listening, you might want to talk to your pastor if you don't already have a security team, because Christians are really under attack, and it's going to get worse. The darker it gets, the worse it's going to be.
Absolutely. Make your church aware, make your church safe. Be that person that would step up and defend your church. I tell people that if you're a safety response officer, and that's what we call ourselves, we don't call ourselves security, but safety response team.
Okay.
I tell people all the time, it is a ministry and it's a commitment. And what the commitment is if anyone dies here today, let it be me and not innocence. Be able to put your life on the line. And I tell you, if you believe in Jesus Christ and you believe his word and his promise to you, then you're not ever going to lose that battle. Even if you die in that battle, then all you do is go home for your reward. In an instant, you will wake up with God.
Yeah, that's what the Bible tells us. It certainly does. Well, thank you so much again. And I really suggest, if you're out in the Dallas area, or go to the Gun Owners of America website and look at where they're going next if you happen to miss that one. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.